Good morning. I'm Richard Bookwalter, President of the California Board of Occupational Therapy. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Friday, August 23rd, 2024 board meeting, the second of 2 days of meeting in Riverside, California. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'm wondering if we could call the roll. Our Secretary, Linda Doe, is unable to join us today, so I'll ask our Vice President, Beata Morcos, if she could call the roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Miller. Here. Hector Cabrera.
I believe Hector's absent, but he may join us in progress, signing on remotely.
Christine Wittlisbach. Here. Lena Doe. Absent. Richard Bookwalter.
Here.
Sharon Pavlovich. Here. And Beata Morcos. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Our first item of business today is we have the agenda. It has been published online. We're looking at items 13 through 20 with the addition of item 6 from yesterday that it's being carried over. 13 was the call to order. 14 is the president's remarks. I just want to again thank Stanbridge University for the space we have here, the lab, the occupational therapy practice lab, training lab, which has many of the tools of our trade in learning how to help people learn to children and with development challenges and adults with daily activity challenges that due to disabilities that they acquire over their lifespan. You'll see some of those in the background. That's why we have an oven here and some other paraphernalia. It's exactly what we all our OT practitioners used a lot of in our training and use in our daily practice as well. So thank you, Cesar, for showing everybody. I have no further remarks today, other than that we hope that Hector Cabrera can join us, Board Member Cabrera can join us in progress, and that we wish Secretary Doe well today, who's not able to join us. Moving on to item number 15, do we have any board member remarks? We can start over here with Christine Wittlisbach.
No.
We've been starting over on the other side yesterday, so I thought
okay.
we should go this way.
Thank you.
Any other board member remarks no? Hearing none, I'll move on to item number 16, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. This is an opportunity for people who are attending in person or remotely via WebEx to introduce themselves to the board and bring up any issues that they may wish to discuss at a future board meeting. If it's not on our current agenda, we would need to add them to a future agenda. So please feel free to let us know if there's any such thing. We have no one currently in person here. We're going to start with in person, then go to WebEx if we do have in-person people. There's nobody in person though, so could we open public comment, moderator, to folks on WebEx?
Sure, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A, or not Q&A. You can make public comment by raising your hand. And if you're an audio-only participant, you may raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. And it looks like we do have a request for comment, Ada Boone-Hero. And Ada, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the Unmute Me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Director, I appreciate being here. Thank you. Good morning.
Yes.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests on WebEx.
Wonderful. Thank you for your comment, Ada. We appreciate having you with us. At this point, I'd like to move on from item number 16 and revisit, go to the next item, 6. Item 6 from yesterday on the report of the practice committee. The practice committee update, and from yesterday, I'd like to ask the committee chair, Christine Wittlisbach, to take it from here.
Okay, so our last board meeting was May 2nd. And since then, the practice committee has met twice, once on June 21st and once on August 2nd. And in your packet of information here, you do have practice committee minutes from the June 21st meeting, and you have highlights from the August 2nd meeting. And so we'll use those for reference today. What I have for consideration of the board today is some language based on some work that the committee has been doing, revolving around two things. One is reduction of the number of hours required for licensed occupational therapists who are seeking advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities. So we'll be talking about that. And the second thing is language about removing the requirement, I want to make sure I get this right, for graduates who start their program after a certain date to have to, oh, I'm sorry, you can't hear me. Okay. Removing the requirement for graduates who who start their academic program after a certain date to have to meet the advanced practice requirements for physical agent modalities upon graduation. I think I said that correctly. So two things for consideration. So if there's some language, was that given out yesterday as an addendum? Yes. So that was some new information, which is why we postponed this discussion. So you should have that as a loose piece of paper, the language in your packet. So first thing we're going to talk about is the work that the committee did on recommending reducing the training hours for supervision of licensed occupational therapists who are seeking their advanced practice approval for physical agent modalities. Okay. And if you go to the minutes for the practice committee meeting, the practice committee meeting minutes for June 21st, 2021. Let me see. On page 6.
Just 1 second, we're gonna load that.
Oh, okay. We're going to load that. Page 6, item 6. We're just waiting for them to load the information onto the.
That will be item 6.3 in the materials. Thank you.
I can't see it.
So I know she's got some,
Yeah, this is when we set up for us.
Oh, I see.
The setup, the first people they can do with them.
Oh, okay. So they should be able to see it. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So, so page 6, item 6 on the June 21st practice committee meeting minutes kind of takes you through some of the reasoning why the committee felt that it was reasonable to reduce the training hours from 240 to 40. And it's outlined here, but some of the reasons that the committee members discussed were that that reducing the hours would benefit. It sort of level the playing field as far as money the cost that it would require for people to complete their hours. That practitioners that are affluent can afford additional education and are going to get approved more easily, which reduces access to consumers. So it would help with that access to consumers. That was a big thing.
Well, the primary thing was that the ACOT standard, the 240 hours were based on the ACOT standards from a previous year, and those have been now incorporated. Many training hours have been incorporated to.
Well, no, this is not for this. That's for the next
Okay.
argument, because these are people who may not have gone to school when those ACO
Okay.
standards were in place.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's for the next thing. So, also, what, yes, please.
Your committee's feedback about access.
Mhm.
And these are all licensees who are before the 2020. So they would have, like myself, for example,
The 2020,
yeah, everybody after 2020 it's different. But
before the 2018 ACO standards that were
Right.
implemented in 2020, yes.
yes. So, and most of these people that we see commenting were licensed before that. who are-
Correct.
Okay.
Everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, including myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question then is the feedback from our committee as it relates to consumer safety and access is that if more people were able to provide it, more of the consumers would be able to receive it. And they reduce the cost so that more of us can do this.
So that more, yes, that's part of it, but also, I mean, that's a small part.
Okay?
With regard to safety, we didn't feel that, we felt that 240 hours was excessive. We didn't feel that it took 240 hours for people to safely be able to provide physical agent modalities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we looked at 15-minute treatments because most modalities are 8 to 15 minutes provided, 8 to 15 minutes. That would equal 960 treatments if you looked at 240 hours. That's a lot of supervised treatments. We didn't feel like it took 960 supervised treatments, doing it 960 times to be at a basic level of competence, that was excessive. You didn't need to do something 960 times to be competent. So we felt like that was,
And you're a practicing hand therapist and a subject matter expert there. And so
am.
I trust, like, if you say we got to 40 hours, because I know that you've done 5,000 hours, I trust that recommendation.
and there are a couple hand therapists on the committee, and there are a lot of people on the committee. Well, several who do have their advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities, even if they don't practice in the area of hand therapy, like Richard, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, I have a PAMS certification, and essentially the number one and number two applications of physical agent modalities are hot packs and ice, basically.
Right.
You warm up a joint before an activity as a preparatory activity using a hot pack. Or you might use ice if there's a tendonitis situation, or you might put ice on after. We have here a hydroculator, which is has a certain temperature. With the chart, you make sure the temperature is right. You put a certain number of layers around the hot packs that are in there. You apply them for a certain amount of time. You have some contraindications and some indications, and that doesn't take 240 hours. Yet that's probably the number one
Right.
modality that is used to prepare someone for an occupational therapy treatment. It's a barrier to care, and it's a my sense is it's an inconvenience to the consumer to not have that available when they can go to the drugstore, buy a microwave hot pack and burn themselves. Having a therapist tell them how to apply things safely at home as well. We wouldn't be allowed to, we're not allowed to do that because if you don't have PAM's certification, and we have a lot to offer just in the basic level. Yes.
I have a question. So with the 40 hours, what keeps someone from, we know Pam's has a list of things that you can do, right? Thermal, electrical, ice, and hot packs. What keeps someone from doing 40 hours of just ice packs and hot packs, getting their PAMs, and they have no other training in any area, but now they're PAM certified, and maybe they didn't get electrical or thermal, but they got their 40 hours. It was just in one or two ways. What do we have to mitigate that?
Well,
So Okay, so we've always relied on the part in law that says you're not, you can tell me exactly what it says, but in essence, you're not allowed to do anything that you're not trained to do, right? So for this particular piece of the law, for getting your physical agent modalities approval,
Mhm.
we relied on the therapist to get training and education in those physical agent modalities that they use most frequently in the clinic. Because we know that there are hand therapists who perhaps use e-stim and ultrasound, but there are a lot of OTs, probably most OTs, who don't ever use those. They just want to use hot packs and ice. They just want to use those. So if that's all you're using, you don't need to have training in the other ones if that's all you're using. So we relied on people to use their best judgment and not do the things that they're not trained to do.
I am one of those people. I have Pam's certification, and I have never done ultrasound or any of the more advanced technical skills. I have not learned those things. But I have Pam's. I was Pam certified because I had a certain number of hours of doing the other. Also, advanced practice is always been confusing because it's not really advanced practice; it's entry level practice. But the advanced practice, what's the legal definition of advanced practice is baseline entry level ability to do, to use that modality. So I would not do ultrasound or anything without additional training.
So it's basically the honor system that
Well,
we're saying it's okay.
Let me
Well,
put
to
it to
do
you
no
this way.
harm, which is
Do no harm. Let me put it to you this way. If someone were to be injured, because before I was I was on the board, then I wasn't, now I am. Between times being on the board, I served as a subject matter expert on disciplinary cases. If someone were to injure someone using a physical agent modality, just because they had their advanced practice approval in a physical agent modality, it doesn't alleviate them of the responsibility of having training in that particular physical agent modality. So I would look to see, for example, if someone was injured with ultrasound, okay, you have your advanced practice, but I want to see your training in ultrasound. So it doesn't alleviate them of the responsibility of having training in that particular physical agent modality. You still need to be trained in those particular modalities that you use, no matter what that is across the board in occupational therapy. So that piece of the law, do no harm, don't do those things that you're not trained to do, still applies even within the context of having your approval, your advanced practice approval, because like Richard said, it is still basic entry level competence. Doesn't really mean that you're competent to use every physical agent modality in the world, because there's a lot that we don't even speak to. Cold laser, there's all sorts of things, that we don't, I've never even touched a laser, but I have my advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities. So if I were to use that, I would need to get training in that. Otherwise, it would be unethical and unsafe for me to use that modality. Yes, please.
Sharon, and I realized that your comment was directed at the reduction from the 240 to the 40, except that the individual in law, it specifies that the education as well as the supervised training hours must touch on these 7 areas. Okay, so that they have to touch on those. We have people now who focus in one particular area and not all of the different modalities. So that approval means you met these education and supervised training hour content requirements. It does not mean that you've touched them all. I don't know if that maybe
That was her
kind of
question.
expands. Yeah.
That was her
So
question. Do
it
you
does
have
not
to?
mean that. It does not mean that with reduction, and it does not mean that now and even prior to approval being changed, from certification to approval. That's always been the case. And it's like, for example, as long as somebody gets these different content areas met, they might be focusing on, ultrasound for pelvic floor therapy, for example. And even if they focused on that, that's, again, they are still approved to use modalities. But to Christine's point, if you're going to do something different, you're going to have to, make sure you have the training to do that particular one. So that's like that. Your concern's not, it's valid now. It's not related to the reduction in hours. That helps. That might not make you feel better, but.
Yeah.
Can you also just elaborate on your committee obviously must have looked into how curriculums have changed and how these modalities have been added into curriculums. Did that come up at all?
Well, it did come up, but it's not relevant to this discussion because this applies to everyone, regardless of when they went to their, through their degree, their qualifying degree program. So
Which part of the two things applies to everyone? I was focused on the after 2020 piece.
that's a different discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just for any licensed OT who wants to get their advanced practice approval of physical agent modalities, regardless of when they graduated. So whether it's before 2020, after, doesn't matter. So, yeah.
And did we also not look at the other professions and how much training they require, like physical, like PT assistants and things like that, and who are able to do these modalities with a lower level of training?
And we did look at it a little bit.
We didn't
because it's
delve
so
too
varied.
deep.
It's
Yeah.
so varied
There's
that
high, yeah. That ours was an outlier. It's so varied that ours was an outlier, and
I have
Assistant.
PAMs too.
you have your PAMs as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what's your practice area? Administration?
And well, now I'm in telehealth.
yeah. And have you ever done ultrasound or any of those, or is it mostly hot packs and cold packs?
So the work that I did, the one that I stayed away from because I did not have the training was the electrical STEM.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think that that required additional training, especially I was managing over a hand therapy clinic. And when I would work or help fill in with staff, that's why I went and got the PAMS certification. But on that particular one, I did not feel comfortable with my skill set and I was not going to provide it to a patient.
Right.
And so without additional training. Felt very comfortable with felt very comfortable with ultrasound. Practice ultrasound on myself. It was awesome. I kind of miss those days.
It's interesting that eSTEM units are available widely now online, so people can get an eSTEM unit, electrical stimulation
I
unit.
bought one at the AOC
Consumers.
conference.
Consumers, and then they may need guidance on it, and so, yeah, there should be more training about that.
We also discussed the fact that, a PT aide, someone who hasn't even gone to school for therapy, can put a cold pack or a hot pack on a patient. And a licensed therapist, someone with their doctorate, can't, if they don't, it just seemed such a disconnect. And we just felt 240 hours was just, for the average OT who just, wants to do that, it's a lot.
And this board has been in discussion with the athletic trainers and seen their scope of practice and their training extensively over the past several years, and it's been, and that also throws a little light on made us take a closer look at our requirements.
Right. I mean, if you just think about how many times before you even went to school, or your mom or your dad or your friends has sprained their ankle and put a cold pack on your ankle. We can't do that in the context of therapy without advanced practice approval. And how much training do you really need to do that?
And we're not advocating for no training, we're advocating for 40 hours.
Yeah, we want training. We want people to be safe, especially if they're using the high risk modalities. We're not saying no training. If you're using those high risk modalities, please concentrate in those areas. And you better, because we'll hold you accountable if a patient gets hurt. But to be honest, we really haven't had any or very many injuries.
So will
modalities.
the action before the board today be to vote on this language? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Because then I want to applaud your committee, just so you know, that this is not an easy task to address. And you guys have done it in a very clear, straightforward way that is consumer first. And that also will benefit the licensee. So it's nice when these are win-wins. But because of the comments that board member Pavlovich made, and she may represent what other licensees think, I'd just like to hear more from her to make sure she's comfortable before we vote, if that's okay. Like, are you now, like, after this discussion, do you see the reasoning behind the 40? Are you good with it? Like,
the hours, I don't have a problem with the hours. I have a problem with the honor system of thing. Yeah, I just have the problem with the honor system of, I just think that might be a loophole, but I mean, we do it in other practice areas, so I have to look at that big picture. So the hours are not bothersome to me at all. I think we had way too many for Pam's approval. It's just, and I have to rely also on Christine, you know, if she was an expert witness, and also Heather's history with how many cases have come before us. But I'm just wondering if it was because it was so stringent, we didn't see it. If now we open it up, we're going to see more. And I don't want to play the what if game. You know, I want to have faith too in our population that they're going to be at their word. I don't know. That's my reservation. Maybe it was so stringent. We didn't say anything because we needed this approval and people took heed. And now they're just like, yeah, we don't need it anymore. We'll all have it. I'm just hoping that landscape doesn't change. That's what I'm worried about. There's nothing in place for that. And I don't want to overregulate either. So to answer your question, Denise, I understand. I'm still processing a little bit of it, but I understand everyone's point.
Thank you.
So it's kind
Are-
of weird. Oh,
Are we ready? Do you want to vote on this? We're basically just looking at this, the CCR 4152.
does everyone have
Language.
that in front of them?
Mhm.
It was handed out yesterday.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah.
The very last item in item 6. So if you
Yeah.
go to the green cover page for number 7, it's to the left.
And there are 3 sections. The middle section is the one that deals with the 40 hours, and then the other 2 sections we'll deal with separately.
This is on page 2, CCR 4152, physical agent modalities, page 2.
So it might be appropriate if if someone would like to make a motion to make a motion.
Oh, do we need public comment?
Yeah, we could do public comment now. All right, let's go to public. Moderator, could you open to public comment? There's no one in the room here for public comment, but if there's anyone by WebEx.
Sure, this is the moderator. And for members of the public on WebEx, you may indicate if you'd like to make a public comment on this item by raising your hand, or if you're an audio-only participant, pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it doesn't appear there are any requests on WebEx.
Thank you. All right, so
President
Yes.
Walter, just one question as a housekeeping tactical, to Heather. Do we have any applications for advanced practice going right now? Do we have any
Yeah.
people in the queue?
Yes.
So,
Many.
so the vote today would stop that
No, because this would be in a future effective date.
future effective dates. Okay.
thank you for that. So do we have a motion to adopt the proposed language for CCR section 4152 on physical agent modalities?
Can I do it? I move to approve
Proposed language.
the proposed language.
I'll second.
Should I make a better motion?
No, it's just, I'm gonna vibrate with the 2. This is the application, but that's okay. Lisa.
We'll do a separate.
Do we have a second? By Adam Marcos. So we have a motion by Christine Whitlis-Bach, a second by Adam Marcos to adopt the proposed language for CCR 4152, reducing the hours from 240 to 40. Any further board discussion? Hearing none. Any public comment by WebEx? There's no one present in the room.
This is the moderator for any members on WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand or press *3 on your device if you are audio only. All right, and it appears there are no requests on WebEx.
Great. So let's call the vote. Vice President Marcos, would you be so kind just to call the vote?
Denise Miller,
Yes.
Christine Wittelsbach,
Yes.
Richard Bookwalter,
Yes.
Sharon Pavlovich,
Yes.
Beata Morcos, yes, and Hector Cabrera and Lena Doe are absent.
Thank you. Motion carries. Language is adopted.
Okay. All right, so there's a companion piece to this proposed language change. Yes.
It's on the same section. But this.
Oh. Okay. Can you explain it? I
Yeah.
don't understand that. And Heather's going to explain it.
Following the amendment to, section 4152 to reduce the hours from 240 to 40 in section 4155 A2 only, the first part, the application revision, is necessary because in the application, it does mention 140 hours. So that application must also be amended because it's incorporated by reference. You can see the language, following the revision date with XX, because again, it's a future effective date. It does say hereby incorporated by reference. So in order to amend the application to be consistent with the reduction, that will also, that's another motion that will be needed. What's maybe problematic is that the second amendment in 4155 A2 about this requirement only applies. That ties back to the legislative proposal or statutory amendment that's identified on page 1 that you all have not discussed yet.
So we can do that. That's what we did because of that. But this only applies to.
So we'll do 3 motions. Okay. Okay.
Why isn't there a strike through on 3? In that same section 4155?
The one that, item 3 below the bolded underlined text.
Yes.
Because it's relating to swallowing, not Pam's. So it doesn't, it's not, there's no recommendation from the committee to change that.
So with this, okay, I'm really glad this came up. So with this language, this applies to PAMs only. The board will still require advanced practice guide, approval for something like swallowing
And hand therapy as of now.
and hand therapy.
Yes.
Okay.
Committee's going to, I believe.
Talk about-
At a future, yeah.
But
Are
again, I just want to redirect. We're only talking about, we're not talking about right now. We're not talking about removing advanced practice requirements for any people graduating after a certain date right now. Right now, what we're talking about is amending the application for current therapists seeking advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities, reducing the hours, just changing the application hours. That's all we're talking about now, to reflect the motion that we just voted on. That's all we're talking about right now. Does that make sense?
Sure does. So you're not going to need a motion for 4155?
We're going to talk about that next.
Got it.
Right now, we're just talking about the application
Got it.
related to the first motion that we just passed.
Okay.
So we need a motion.
I move that we revise the physical agent modalities advanced practice approval application form to reflect the change from 240 to 40 hours in supervised on-the-job training, clinical internship, or affiliation.
Yeah, I'll second that.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
The form, the application.
Didn't we just vote on that?
We voted on reducing the requirement. Now we are talking about the form. Because it's on a form and we have to have a separate motion for the form that people fill out.
Sectional application.
Now that we voted in favor of reducing the hours, we have to fix the form so that it reflects what we just voted on. So that's what this motion is limited to. Do we have a second?
I did.
Christine with the Fox is second. So we have a motion and a second. Board discussion on that, on this. Well, we just had some board discussion. Seeing none, there's no public comment in the room. Do we have WebEx public comment?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you are audio only, press *3 on your device.
Moderator, is there not a comment box section?
I believe we
option?
weren't using the comment box for this meeting, but if you'd like me to, I could turn that on.
I'll leave it to the discretion of the board. That's usually that's just typical. So I was just surprised I couldn't find one. So I'll leave that to the discretion of the board then.
No, Richard, no.
Are members of the public able to raise their hand to reflect interest in talking? So that's.
And that's why the slide was changed.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
It doesn't appear that there are any requests from the public on WebEx.
Thank you, moderator. Let's call the vote.
Denise Miller,
Yes.
Christine Wittensbach,
Yes.
Richard Bookwalter,
Yes.
Sharon Pavlovich,
Yes.
Beata Marcos, yes, and Linda Doe and Hector Cabrera absent.
Thank you. The motion carries. The form will be revised.
I just have 1 second.
Okay, so I just want to say, because I could tell that you guys are a little bit confused about the language and why is it presented like this. So one of the reasons this language was given out at the beginning of the board meeting and not given to people ahead of time is because we had to take this through legal. And so that's why this is the suggested language, and that's why it's written like this, is because this is the language that legal suggested. So I know it's a little bit tricky and a little bit like, why is it presented like this? But that's why.
Well, that's really nice of you to check in on that. And if you don't mind me saying back, to me, upon reading, and I'm happy to be redirected. I guess what the confusion is to me, when I looked at
Yeah.
what was presented, the motion would be to adopt CC 4152, and then the next motion would be to adopt 4155. So I didn't understand why we had to specifically call out a form if that's encompassed in one of these, like, that's all
I understand.
that's where you probably saw, like, why are we
Yeah.
layering?
So what the reason for that is because the committee has two different recommendations. One is to reduce the training hours from 240 to 40 for current licensees that want to seek approval to provide PAMs. The other part of this, though, which the committee has not reported on yet, is that there is going to be a recommendation to make a statutory amendment for these future grads, right? This has been an ongoing issue, not just for the committee, but before the board. The problem is I'm sorry. So the issue that's causing, I believe, confusion is that the item in 4155A2, there's two proposed amendments in that. The first one relating to the form applies to the reduction in hours approved under 4152. The second part of that,
Which is a regulation.
which is a regulation.
And it's always been in that area. It's always
Right.
been there.
But the second, what's problematic though, in terms of, I think this causing confusion, the second part of this though, the second amendment in 4155A2, that this requirement only applies relates to the proposed statutory amendments referenced on page 1 in BNP Code section 2570.3 D and F.
Which is a law,
Which is
not a
law.
regulation.
Exactly. So
So we have to separate.
and so the proposed law amendment, is then regulations interpret and make specific the law. And so in that, it's unfortunate, but in one section, you have a reg that applies to another regulatory reduction in hours. And then you have a qualifier that is implementing and making specific the proposed amendments for those future grads that that no one's talked about yet. Does that help?
Thank you for going down that extra step.
I
Very
suppose we could have done a motion to change the hours and the form at the same time.
Yes.
We didn't do that, sorry. So that's
Nope.
the problem.
I know, because when you went and you opened up 4155, it looked like you were addressing the one that's right next to it.
I was,
Right,
Not-
yeah,
They didn't,
This
to
is
me, it
all-
looked like all,
yeah.
so I'm like, why we have to
it's,
about
yeah,
that? Yeah,
we-
so I didn't understand. But okay, now I do.
Now we're all together and we should hold
Okay.
hands.
I don't think any of us understood that except for Jill.
So it's three motions. At the end of the day, it's gonna end up being
Going to
three.
be, it's
Got
going
it.
to be, yes.
So it's not too.
Sorry for the confusion.
No problem.
Okay, cover this one so we can move back to this track.
All right. Okay, now we're going to talk about, the fact that the ACOT standards have changed over time. And that the committee discussed this and that the committee is making a recommendation to the board that those students, no, I have to be careful how I say this because we've thought of very different ways to say this. We have to be careful how we say it. the committee is going to make a recommendation to the board, is making a recommendation to the board that occupational therapists who began their qualifying degree program prior to July 31st, 2020, okay, that these,
They still have to do. this.
yeah, that this applies only to them. And that anyone or starting their qualifying degree program after that date no longer has to worry about seeking advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities because the ACOACH standards have changed. And the committee felt that they were now getting this education and training in their academic degree programs. Yes, we're going to get to that. I know, because you were at the committee meeting. Yes, yes. So, so there's that. And that is what the language reflects. This is the language that we're bringing to you on page 1. The committee is recommending a change in the regulations,
So,
law.
The 25703.
Yes.
Got it.
D2.
And do we want to talk about the minutes?
Yes. So I'm going to take you through kind of our line of thinking about why the committee came to this conclusion. And it is in the June 21st, 2024 practice committee meeting minutes on page 3. Has everyone found that? Okay. So at the top of page 3, you'll see a date, 2008. Okay. So that reflects ACOACH standards that were put out in 2008. Then there's some more ACOACH standards put out, and they were updated in 2013. Then they were updated in 2018. Then they were updated in 2023. So what we did as a committee is we looked at the ACOACH standards in those years, and we looked at the evolution of the language regarded to education and training surrounding physical agent modalities and how that had evolved over the years through the ACOACH standards. What we saw in the 2008 ACOACH standards is that there was really minimal education and training requirements related to physical agent modalities for both the bachelor's and master's degree programs for OTs. What it said in there, and we kind of get a little snippet here in the minutes, is that OT students will demonstrate safe and effective application of superficial thermal modalities. Okay. And the committee felt that that wasn't very strong language because the word demonstrate did not require that the student actually perform the task. In fact, it said that in the ACOACH standard language, that demonstrate didn't mean that the student actually needed to perform the task, which that seemed counterintuitive to me, but that's what it actually said in the ACOACH standard. So we didn't feel that that was very strong language to support that OT students were getting a lot of education and training in physical agent modalities. So then we looked at the 2013 ACOACH standards. The language there was maybe a little bit stronger, but not much. The language there changed to demonstrated safe and effective application. And it was followed with a clarification that said the word demonstrate did not require that a student actually perform the task to verify. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It was basically the same language. It was basically the same language. So really not stronger at all. Okay. Then the ACOACH standards in 2018 significantly changed regarding the language surrounding physical agent modalities. The ACOACH standards that were put out in 2018 to be effective July of 2020 stated that the student must demonstrate knowledge and use of the safe and effective application of superficial thermal agents, deep thermal agents, electrotherapeutic agents, and mechanical devices as a preparatory measure to improve occupational performance. This must include indications, contraindications, and precautions. So we felt that was significantly stronger and required that students know significantly more and demonstrate more knowledge and understanding of physical agent modalities. So we really felt that that was a significant leap forward in what was required of all students in their qualifying degree program. The language in 2023 that will become effective in July 2025 wasn't really that much different than the 2018 language. I think there was just like a flip-flop in a couple of words, but it was basically like 2018. So it was really the 2018 language that became effective in July 2020 that was the strongest upgrade to the language. And we really felt that it was pretty strong and really covered everything that we require in the language of our law for someone to get their advanced practice approval in physical agent modalities. And we looked at this and we talked about it. In fact, we talked about it over 2 meetings. And that's where we came to our recommendation to the board that OTs who begin their qualifying degree program prior to July 31st, 2020, those people would be accountable for applying for advanced practice approval, having to go through all the hoops that we currently do. And those who start their qualifying degree program after these ACOTE standards went into effect, the 2018 ACOTE standards that go into effect in July 2020, they would not need to do that. And that's where that language came from. I hope that was clear.
So the recommendation for July 31st is aligned perfectly with the ACO.
When those go into effect.
Yeah.
Okay. So any student who starts a program on or after that date, will be held to the standards. They will have to.
Well, they won't have to comply with the education training requirements or
Right.
submit an application.
Well, I was going to talk about their academic degree programs.
And the students who are currently right now, 2023, just not that I know you went back to 2020, but to support what you stated, the 2023 language is very clear in there. I mean,
Well, the 2023 isn't much different than the 2018.
well, yes, understanding that it outlines, it lists every single one, and it's required to be part of a curriculum program. So the whole thing makes perfect sense.
It's very similar to the 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at standard B 4.17, right? Where you were referencing for the document. The difference in
Did you
language,
say what page it's on?
31. So just demonstrate knowledge and use. And then that's for the doctoral, and the same thing is for the master's. We don't have a bachelor's anymore, but I want to go all the way over to the OTA programs or OTA curriculums. Define safe and effective application. The only word that's missing is knowledge, but we have actually hands-on effective application. So how come OTAs weren't considered? Is knowledge the ruling factor to not include OTAs as being able to apply PAMS? It's only occupational therapists, but not occupational therapy assistants.
Are you saying that you think that OT assistants should need to get advanced practice approval?
No, I'm saying, why aren't we included when it says, oh, here, the provision only applies to occupational therapists? Why not occupational therapy assistants too?
Because currently OT assistants do not have to seek advanced practice approval
They can just practice it?
under the supervision of an OT who has it. They can't, obviously, because they're under supervision. So they can't do it independently because they're not doing anything independently.
But if we're mitigating, if this is changing later, where we're not even worried about this, how does that affect OTAs? Because if it doesn't exist anymore after this certain date,
It doesn't change anything.
it doesn't change anything?
The OTA is always performing a physical agent modality treatment under the supervision of an OT who has their advanced practice approval. So that's true now, and it will be true then.
because we haven't got rid of advanced practice approval there, or is that on the horizon later? Is this saying just for physical agent modality approval? After a certain date in the school, you're not going to have to worry about this.
Correct. If the supervising OT has graduated after this date, the student will, the OT assistant will not have to worry about this.
So they'll just be able to do it.
Yes. Because their supervising OT will be licensed to do
Deemed to
it.
have been met, yes.
Yes, yes.
So whether the individual has, the OT
Mhm.
has advanced practice approval under the old requirements, or these future OTs who won't have to demonstrate additional education and training because their qualifying degree program is being deemed to have educated and made them able to competently provide that. The OTA still, regardless of which one is their supervisor, they can only do it under that supervision. The person who has approval, or do it under this future new grad who's been deemed to have met that. So either way, the OTA providing physical agent modalities goes back to under the correct supervision of the correct person.
Okay. And just one other comment, Christine, and it's not meant to be fighting. I'm trying to understand the process because I did go to both meetings. The only other thing, I think there was 2 educators, maybe 2 on committee. And I just more of a comment because I know this came up and it wasn't a concern for the committee so much. I know because I'm in education and we all talk and we all do curriculum changes and we all plan and talk. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I know the committee specifically told me it's hearsay. We really can't go by hearsay, Sharon. We're going to just go by what we know. My concern is I know because I am in education. We offer a whole quarter. This is going to be met. I'm not even worried about it. I know for a fact there are schools that have 1 3-hour lecture that are saying they still meet ACO standards because it's gray. It's a gray area. Left to interpretation, and we want that. I just want the board to be prepared. There is that still disparity where one school will offer a 3-hour lecture and one has an entire quarter where everything's practiced, everything done. Not everybody has access to equity and resources, all that stuff. So just more of a comment because I've already kind of been told my thoughts on that part as a public member commenting too, but just so the board, then planting seeds so that you're aware the educational system is still not equitable when it comes to knowledge and application for PAMs. So I'm a little worried that just.
I think
That's all.
my comment back to that, and I was in the same meeting, obviously, is that the other educators in the committee were comfortable with that.
There wasn't a lot of educators though.
Well, there were a lot of people in there, they may not be full-time educators, but they do teach, and I'm one of them, and they are comfortable with that.
22,000 practitioners. So I'm just hoping we're on the right page, just planting seeds.
I'm hoping that ACOT's watching this meeting and heard that feedback from Sharon because that's better suited for ACOT to make that change.
I don't know.
About that disparity, that's really in their purview. That's a very good point, by the way.
Well, I think ACO, we know ACO keeps it nebulous on purpose so that, because they know that schools have different access and different things. And they're hoping also everyone's going to do the right thing. And I think everyone tries to. I really do. I think the intent is to always do the right thing. I don't think any educational system wants to say, we're going to get by on 3 hours. I don't think that at all.
If I could just add to the discussion about ACOT, I'm grateful to ACOT for beefing up the standards,
Right.
which this board has asked them to do
Mhm.
a number of times in the past, because the ACOT standards were in fact cited as the reason for the advanced practice language in our Practice Act. The fact that the ACOT standards had nothing on physical agent modalities, and now not only did they add something, but they added something substantial. When the language of 2008 and 2013 came out and the ACOT standards, and that comment, demonstrate doesn't mean demonstrate, basically, we gave feedback to ACOT saying why that doesn't make any sense. And it's problematic in our situation in California because it's the basis of a law that we are enforcing for advanced practices. And the same is true in the other practice areas. So please, and and the reason for this is looking back at your regulations. So ACODE has, in fact, and I also want to bring up the fact that bachelor's degree, you can get a bachelor's degree, get an OT, become an OT back in 2001. And when these regulations and this law was originally passed, now you have to get a master's and a PhD and a doctorate. So a great deal has happened in terms of education. And we're not there. We're not all the way to where we want to be. But many more credits have been added to the entry-level OT degree and are being considered for the OTA degrees as well. And that is, our laws do not reflect that, our regulations do not reflect that. So another reason for doing all this is to keep up with the expansion of the education, of entry-level education that's taken place in this country. Even if it's not exactly all the way there with every single program, they're going to be held to that. Starting July 2020. They've been in terms of the PAMs. So, and then there'll be other layers of it ongoing. And then we all know there's a constant debate between ACODE and the schools about what they're, every time ACODE ups something, the schools say, wait, back up. But they all are going to be held to that standard after 2020. The students are held to that. And I believe that informs us as a board about how we can look at this issue.
Agree.
Do we have any public comments? There's no one in the room, but maybe by WebEx?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, pressing *3 on your device. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you. Hearing none, I'd like to move that we adopt the board adopt the proposed language for BPC section 2570.3 and D and F and
Second.
4155
Yep.
A2 and ask the staff to find an author
Yes.
to introduce legislation to enact these changes.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and from me a second by Denise Miller. Do we have any more board discussion about it? Final thoughts? One more public comment, opening for public comment before we vote, please.
All right, this is the moderator, members of the public on WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please click that raise hand icon or press *3 on your device if you are audio only. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Okay, thank you. No public comment.
No public comment. Thank you, moderator. I'll call the vote.
Denise Miller,
Yes.
Christine Wittelsbach,
Yes.
Richard Bookwalter,
Yes.
Sharon Pavlovich.
Yes.
Beata Morcos, yes, and the Hector Cabrera and Leonardo are not here. Absent.
Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you for that. So that concludes item 6 on the agenda.
No, actually.
Oh, no, there's one more. So that doesn't include number 6. Yes, we have, the board is charged with approving or accepting the minutes for March 1st and June 21st, 2024. Do we, that's right, because we had some comments.
Before we do that, can I just say that, so next on the agenda for the practice committee is we'll be looking at the ACODE standards and how they relate to hand therapy as well as swallowing advanced practice in the future. And perhaps I'll at least be coming back to report to the board our thoughts on that, maybe with language, maybe not, depends on how that plays out. So stand by. Okay.
Yeah, I had getting back to the minutes, I had some comments on the highlights.
Yeah.
Should I mention them here? Or should
Please.
we wait until the minutes happen? Okay. So, these are the highlights. So we're not voting on the highlights, but I just wanted to point something out because it's germane to what I discussed yesterday. There was a discussion, there was a leadership meeting by DCA with the board presidents and executive officers and board leadership basically to talk about an issue that they have a concern with at DCA about shadow regulations and people, boards that are taking a more advocacy role in expanding scope of practice and how that is maybe, the DCA's view of how that's beyond the role of the boards. The boards are to enforce the laws and interpret the laws and to develop regulations about the laws, but to expand into other practice areas is problematic. We've had discussions about this at other meetings recently. So I did want to add some language, which I forwarded by text to Heather Martin in the highlights in section 8, where I reported on that during the practice committee meeting, because there was discussion about eliminating the practice advanced practices, which would be a significant change in the OT Practice Act. And I pointed out that the advanced practice requirements are in statute that we had this meeting, of course. The advanced practice requirements are in statute. Removing hand therapy as an advanced practice or any other advanced practice would require a change in the statute. DCA recently held a meeting with board leaders to clarify DCA's position on changes to scope of practice. DCA's position was that efforts to expand or redefine practice fall outside the mandate of the licensing boards and into the role of the professional associations, and that the role of the boards was to interpret, define, and enforce the statutes. So I just wanted to make sure that was included in the minutes when this is prepared, so that can be included
In the minutes.
in the minutes. But those aren't minutes yet. Those are just highlights. And then we have the March 1st. Did people have changes on the March 1st or the June 21st practice committee meeting minutes? Anything they want to change? If not, we could do a motion to accept them and authorize staff to make any non-substantive changes. We need to do that.
Do you want
They're-
them, do
already-
you want the minutes? Do you want separate motions or one motion for the minutes? Okay. I will make a motion to accept the practice committee meeting minutes for August 2nd, 2024.
No.
No? Okay, perfect. Let me go back. I make a motion to accept the minutes for the practice committee meetings for June 21st, 2024 and for March 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Denise Miller, a second from Beata Morcos. Any board discussion on that? Seeing none, there's no public comment in the room. May we open for public comment via WebEx?
This is the moderator, and for members of the public who are on WebEx, if you'd like to indicate that you would like to make a public comment, please click that raise hand icon, or if you are audio only, pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you, moderator. At this time, before we move on to item. Oh, we have to just take a vote. Pardon me. Let's take the vote.
Denise Miller,
Yes.
Christine Wittelsbach,
Yes.
Richard Bookwalter,
Yes.
Sharon Pavlovich.
Yes.
Beata Morcos, yes. Yeah.
Motion carries. The minutes are accepted. I apologize for that. Almost forgetting. Thank you for your help. Before we move on to item 17, I just want to let people know that Hector Cabrera has texted us that he's not going to be able to join us today. So he and Linda will both be absent for the rest of the meeting. Do people need a break? It's for before we get to agenda item 17.
Be great.
Can we do a 10-minute break? It's 10:14. So back at 10:25. Welcome back from our break. This is the August 23rd, 2024 Board of Occupational Therapy meeting, and we're reconvening with agenda item number 17, report on pending legislation and consideration of taking a position. At this point, we are largely up. We just have an update on legislation discussed previously. There is information in the packet. I'd like to refer people to the chart. There's a chart immediately after the cover sheet for item 17 that summarizes the bills to be discussed today that we've been watching. Mostly we've been watching, a couple we've supported. One of them is, well, I'll just go through them because the status of the bill as of August 14th, 2024 is the top of the chart. Obviously, it's a couple weeks or 10 days later. So there have been a little bit of action on these and a little bit of a change. So Bonta's, we were watching AB 1991 by Bonta, having to do with adding the National Provider Identifier, the board asking for that. We were watching that bill. It has passed the Senate. I checked on, as of today, I checked this morning. Some of them have had changes this week because there's been a lot of activity this week. So that bill is no longer in Senate Appropriations as listed. It's passed the Senate with amendments and is then going to go back to the House or to the Assembly to look at those amendments. We were just watching that. We'll continue to watch it because it would affect how the board collects information on applicants. AB 2269. If anybody, a board member, by the way, wants to pipe in about any of these bills, please just raise your hand and let me know because I'm happy to, you may know more about it than I do. 2269 was canceled by the author. We were in support of that, but it's been canceled, so that's not going anywhere. AB 2442 Zboer, which is the third column, the third row, passed the Assembly and the Senate and has gone for enrollment, and that has to do with expedited licensure for persons in abortion and gender affirming health care. That was a watch bill for us, but we'll see with the governor, whether the governor signs that or not. AB 2725 has the activity that we should discuss. We had supported it on May 3rd. It went to committee. Then it's moved on. Before we were able to get our letter out, it moved to the Senate floor. So Heather drafted a letter, which I reviewed and was sent to the Senate floor for there's an analysis on the 18th. And so we submitted a letter of report to the Senate because that obviously was pointless sending it to the committee when it was already headed to the Senate. Now the Senate has passed it with an amendment, so the Assembly is that's the brand new news this week. And I looked at the amendment this morning, and it's kind of complicated because it has to do with another law that's being passed. Apparently, there's another law that's being considered. So if they both get, so they had to change some language. So that's on its way to the Assembly for consideration of the Senate amendments. That's where it is now. But that's a position of accept. Now that's for the administrative services credential for OTs and PTs in the school. Okay, that's 2725. So fingers crossed that will continue. AB 2753 is held under submission. That's the one we were watching about the coverage of rehabilitative and habilitative services and devices in health care service plans or health insurance policies, and including durable medical equipment. We were watching that. It's either held under submission, which means it's either dead for the year. It's dead for the year. It might be a 2-year bill. Might provide it's a 2-year bill. So we'll see what happens with that. But there's nothing more this year that will take place on that. There's no change to the status of AB 2826 by author Gibson. AB 3127 is also held under submission. It says referred to suspense file. It's been held under submission. That's reporting of crimes and the mandated reporters. We had a robust discussion about that, about when when and how situations are referred to law enforcement reporting of crimes. That's held under submission. So again, that would be, there's not going to be any activity this year, and it may end up a 2-year bill. SB 1067, Healing Smallwood Cuevas, Healing Arts Expedited Licensure for Medically Underserved Areas or Populations. And it was ordered to third reading. I don't believe there's any change to that. I looked this morning and I didn't see any change to that. And then SB, if anybody has any other information on that. And then SB 1290 Roth, regarding the healthcare coverage, essential health benefits. We were watching that, and that is ordered to the third reading. Yeah. As there's no change to that. So that wraps it up. Now we didn't include the athletic trainers bill in this, so we can't really discuss it, except that it's passed the Senate and Assembly and is basically a title protection bill. So it has no impact on this board.
President Bookwalter,
Yes.
on SB 1067, perhaps maybe this is a question for Executive Officer Heather Martin instead. How come we are not included in this bill as one of the sponsors? Why didn't we consider it?
Because the medically underserved areas or populations is a federal designation that does not include OTs in the state of California. It's a federal designation.
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm asking the question, and if I'm going down a path that is not correct for what this bill is, but this is what piqued that question. I work for a health plan. We serve a Medi-Cal population. At the same time, Governor Newsom has a very robust platform for Cal-Aid, which is an underserved population. I am concerned that some of this language is leading to that, and I just want to make sure that occupational therapy is not left out. That's the context of my question. And okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't understand the federal designation. I don't understand at all the answer you gave.
Licensure boards don't get to pick and choose what are medically underserved areas or medically underserved populations. That is a federal designation, and the boards listed have licensees that the feds have identified in one of those categories, medically underserved population or medically underserved area. So, I don't.
And we're not occupational.
Correct.
Okay. So as a side piece to put action outside of the purview of this board, if as a practitioner, I said to the profession, could you look at this? And if you so choose which is outside of this board, not before us today, then someday it could come. I mean, we do have the opportunity for occupational therapy to be on here because it is going to be an access issue. I mean, Medi-Cal this Cal-Aid platform that Governor Newsom put is tremendous, what the underserved population's going to receive. And it's amazing. And I just don't want us to, people not to have access to occupational therapy services.
So, I mean, okay, thank you for that. I do understand. I do want to just, in terms of access and the expediting of applications can be approved in 30 days. And I'm not sure how much sooner that could occur because we're still dependent upon the applicant providing documents. So if the documents if the application is submitted, we can more quickly tell them what's missing. I'm not sure that the access to OT that you're discussing really would be impacted by this provision regarding an applicant, an individual's application being expedited because they identify a medically underserved area.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I understand respectfully, and I'm not gonna take up the board's time going further, because I could go, I think I think where the trajectory of this, I think I'm on to something, but I'll pause. It's not for this board, and I'll work through AOTA and let them take it up, and I'll, push it forward. So thanks for going the distance.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on the legislative, the report on legislation? There's no one in the room, so moderator, could we open it to WebEx for public comment?
Sure, this is the moderator and at the direction of the board. If members of the public would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand, or if you're an audio only participant, press *3 on your device. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment.
Thank you, moderator. Is there anything else the board would like to discuss regarding the legislation before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, hearing none. Let us move on to the executive officer's report. Item 18.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm sorry for this item being brought as a handout rather than sent in advance. One of the things I wanted to do was, because you were provided the budget letters as well as the memo from DCA, and what I wanted to do was make sure, and again, I apologize for the length, but of this, that discussion, I wanted to try to give a narrative to oh, sorry, my apologies, I'm sorry, that there would be state vacancies that would be eliminated in order to achieve savings. Then there was also going to be direction for ongoing reduction to state budgets. Again, I think the language says with minimal exceptions or limited exceptions, right? So even though the board is a special fund agency, meaning that the fees it charges is how the board earns its revenue. The board does not rely on general funds, that these reductions we're still going to apply. And so there's a little bit of a description about that in terms of the about the vacancy sweep. We kind of went through this drill, and one of the things I mentioned at the top of page 2 is that unfortunately, though, this time it was not just a vacancy because we kept one position vacant in the event that that was to occur, but there was also a dollar amount identified. And what was somewhat problematic is that the vacancy dollar amount identified was based on a staff services manager 1, which makes higher than some of the other lower classifications. And in our case, we identified an office technician. So while it was a 1.0 position that we identified to be eliminated, we didn't meet the dollar threshold. And so we had another vacancy that combined would have meant a loss of 2 positions, but we would have met the target identified by Department of Finance. And we did request an exclusion of that second vacancy and basically request acceptance of the reduction in funds related to the vacancy originally identified. So we don't have an answer back about that yet. And we also don't have any further, so that the details of that came under the second budget letter 2420. What we don't have yet is the information about the 7.95% reduction to personal services and OE and E line items. So continuing on past the budget letters, we have, the revenue and expenditure documents, which are included in the materials. I've summarized them here in the report. I made a note that showing that, again, on page 2 of the report, that the revenue earned through June 30th of the fiscal year, right, 23-24, that it was 3.1. Next page, please, moderator. That that the revenue exceeded the number identified in the expenditures, although that was just through June 30th, and it was not as high as the projection. So what I noted is that there's like a difference about $160,000 between the projected expenditure amount and the revenue earned. So the revenue has exceeded more than $150,000 what the projected expenditures are. So we all, we include that fund condition. And for those of you who, may remember back in 2020, when we realized we needed a fee increase, that due to savings as well as increased revenue, that this has pushed the date off further and further, right? So every quarter when you hold a meeting and you get a fund condition, again, it's through what's happened to date, and sometimes include projections, and it's just been pushed out and pushed out, right? So that's a good thing. One of the things I have continued to caution, though, is the fact that the revenue exceeding the expenditures cannot continue to be expected because of the salary savings element. If there is a vacancy because the board is funded for the position at the beginning of the year, whether the position is vacant for 1 month or 8 months, we have that as salary savings because we're already funded that money, yet we don't spend it. Okay, we don't pay a salary because the position is vacant, then we quote unquote underspend that line item. So at the bottom of page 2, what I did is go back the last few fiscal years and show you the difference between the personal services line item, which is again includes salaries, benefits, temp help, et cetera, identifying what the budget was and what our expenditure was. And that dollar amount varies depending on the level of the classification that was vacant, the number of months it was vacant, et cetera. So I point this out because once positions are all filled, you don't have those vacancies. You don't have those salary savings. So that number to the far right, that approximate difference, that's one of the reasons you can't rely upon that. So in short, if there's about $150,000 difference between our revenue and our expenditures, and we know we have salary savings that down below were between 250 and 450,000. I provided that information to illustrate why the fact that the revenue exceeds expenditures cannot be continued to rely upon, right? The dollar amount underspent for salary savings identified at the bottom of page 2 is far more than the difference of the revenue. The salary savings identified at the bottom of the page are far higher than the current difference between the revenue earned and the expenditures. And that is why I'm highlighting we're still going to be 200,000 to 300,000 short on revenue earned once all the positions are filled, which is going to, again, necessitate a fee increase to ensure long-term solvency. And also the fact we don't know what this direction is going to come out about the 7.95% reduction.
So do you think we'll know more about that in November?
We will, yes.
So we
Yep.
may be looking at pushing out our fee increase.
Correct.
But not eliminating our fee increase. Because
Correct.
we need to have a fee increase, but we may not need to do it as soon.
Correct.
But we don't know whether that's true or not, or what timing of that should be until November.
Correct. So you'll have a better idea then.
Okay.
We should have more information about the budget reduction. Also by then, we will have had the money encumbered in the current fiscal year again for everyone started July 1 of 24 and goes through June 30 of 2025. By then, the invitation for bid to get bids on from a vendor to provide a contract to do an audit and evaluation of the board's fees being charged. That report should be available hopefully in early to mid-February. And the timing of that is such that depending on when the board selects their meeting dates, which is later on, that having that information may mean that the language approved in August of 2022, the statutory language that said, raise the OT fee from, 270 to 350, raise the OTA fee from 210, to 300, make the inactive fee half, and all of those other proposals, including the new advanced practice fee, all of those will need to be reevaluated based on what the auditor
Fee study.
company fee study, what it says.
So we can maybe have this report again in November this way, and then maybe put it on the agenda after the fee study comes in. We really shouldn't.
It will,
We
yes,
probably shouldn't make decisions. I mean, this is me speaking, until the fee study comes in,
correct.
because then
Yes.
we'll know even more.
And not only will they evaluate the cost of providing that service and then review what the board has, approved for the fee, for the rates, but then also they may identify there's another service that the board provides that there's not a fee for example. That's part of that fee study.
Could you remind us, where we were? And I mean, I forgot where in the arc of approval, the fee increase that we sort of approved are.
Okay, so the fees are set in statute, which means you requires a bill. And the feedback back in 2021, 22 was that, that the legislature would require the fee study in order to, if we got someone to author the bill for the fees to be increased, that the legislature wanted to rely on this third-party vendor to evaluate and audit the fees, again, to make sure that the fees were being charged, consistently with what the actual cost to the board is. And so that will be helpful for the introduction of a bill. And maybe that doesn't need to happen in spring of 25 for a 1/1/26 effective date. It may be that all these other fluid factors may be that the bill could be introduced in 2026 with a 27 effective date. And so the fund condition, for example, right now does show fiscal year, ending the fiscal year, it's saying like we don't have enough money for 26, 27. Well, the problem is it's only half a month of reserve negative. And by the time you incorporate the salary savings that actually occurred in the 23, 24, prior fiscal year, that is going to be pushed out further, which is why I'm suggesting you don't need a fee bill introduced in 25 to achieve a 1/1/26 effective date. It's very, very extremely likely that it could be introduced in 26 calendar year, January 26 for a January 27 effective date. So hopefully we'll have all this documentation, noted. And I even went so far, I started a document, not just for, whoever replaces me, but also to provide for when somebody is seeking a fee increase, the fee bill, that there's historical information going back to the 2012 sunset report, the 2016 sunset report, and the 2020 sunset report. It's been on the legislature's, they've responded and they've mentioned this, all three last sunset reports. What is the board's plan for long-term fiscal solvency? Okay, so the board did something, right? They identified new user fees, right? So if you want a pocket card, you got to pay for it. And it doesn't affect everyone, only those who want one, right? Probation fee, again, a user fee, doesn't affect the whole population, only those who go on probation. And so by having this historical reference to what is the long-term plan and specifically in the 2020 report saying you can't continue to rely on salary savings because there's an expectation at some point all positions are filled. Therefore, your revenue will not exceed your expenditures and you're going to have to do something about it, right? And to that point, when there was a reduction back in 2010, the board had 0 vacancies. We had to lose a 0.8 position, which how do you lose a part of a person when you don't even have a vacancy? And so actually what we did is we had to reduce the position authority to achieve that vacancy. And again, which affected the funding. So it's kind of maybe a little bit more complicated for this, but I will say that regarding this current budget letter, the vacancy will be eliminated in this fiscal year. So 24-25, and the funding will be reduced from the board's budget next July 1st in fiscal year 25-26. So it's a 2-step piece, and maybe the budget letter explains that a little bit maybe better than I just did. But that again, all of these factors are one of the reasons. Yes, a fee increase is still necessary. What it should be will be determined by the audit and the fee study report. But all of these other factors will also impact the board's expenditures. Again, adjusting the necessity for the fee increase effectively. Okay.
Heather.
Yeah.
So I also would just like to add to your comments that we did have a budget committee, Lena Doe and myself. That budget committee did work on getting everything to a final place with the board. The board did vote on that language. And so we do have recommendations. We were looking for a bill sponsor until we were told to put it on hold.
Yes.
So just giving this for the historical piece, but also calling out that hopefully those are in your notes. And also like you, I will be moving off this board. And so I think that the board's going to be wanting to think of who would be on that budget committee. Should you go that route, Lena Doe will still be here. And I'm happy just as a call out to give anybody institutional knowledge who takes that position, before I'm gone. So if you want that, because we went through a lot of iterations and got it to a really complete point. So if I can help.
Right, but the board already did accept that recommendation and the board voted on and approved language. We have a statutory.
I'm talking about process.
Oh,
Can I ask
yeah.
a quick question too?
Yeah.
Because the fee study, has it already started or is it
No.
going to take place? So it's going to come in after all these,
Right.
Yes.
there's the developments
correct.
fall into play or develop further regarding the elimination of vacancies and budgets. So that'll all be actually should be helpful.
Correct.
Because if we had the fee study done already, then it would be a shot.
Right.
You'll have the fee study, you'll have the recommendation of the
Yeah.
committee, and you'll have real lifetime of fiscal. And those 3 things should really drive the process for whatever the committee is that takes over.
I'm not sure that the budget committee would even need to discuss this because the fee study is going to be provided right around the time of the board's first meeting of the year. And they already approved the language in August of 22. So that language will be brought forward again so that the board can see what it approved in August of 22 and how that relates to the fee study.
Yeah, whatever the board decides.
Okay.
Yeah, so and maybe there is no changes,
All
right? And then, and not only that,
Change.
it would be about, the direction of, yes, let's go ahead and try for a fee bill this year in calendar year 25, or, oh, I can see we can work on this in the, late 25, early 26, again, looking for a 1/1/27 effective date. You'll have a better idea with an updated fund condition, with all of these other variables at the same time you have the language and the fee study.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if there are no further questions, then, the personnel updates that have happened, you can see, we filled three positions. And, again, we had 2 vacancies, one still in the recruitment process. The other one we identified, as a position to be eliminated. We don't have an answer yet about the one that Rachel was promoted from the lead licensing administration unit analyst, and she was promoted to the enforcement unit manager position, which left her position vacant. That's the one that we are continuing the recruitment, and we are requesting that it be excluded from the vacancy elimination. And then also coming soon, and this will again is one more factor to the board's budget, is the pass on of the 2% credit card processing fee. You may recall that the board pays $45,000 to $53,000 a year in credit card processing fees. And by passing on that $2-3 charge to the individuals who using the credit card means that the board will no longer have that cost. So that's going to happen here in September. We've asked for messaging from the Office of Public Affairs. And next year in fiscal year 25-26, when the funding for the eliminated positions is removed, our budget will also be reduced by the amount of the credit card as well. So there's all these kind of variables that are up and will, take effect later. So lastly, and I know on the page 4, in addition to what Richard had referenced about the scope of practice, following this report and the budget documents right before the regulations update report is this 2-section. So let's see, I think that is item 18. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It might be item 18.A.8, I believe.
Well, they're not really numbered, so there's.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking to the moderator
Oh.
to show it,
Oh,
but it's
sorry.
in your packet. It's a single page document that's 2 pages. And this is the slide from the meeting that Richard had referenced about how scope of practice amendments can be made. And again, the example at the end is, you just can't make a motion.
Yeah.
Yes. Or, we've been doing this for X long. Those are not the ways. Again, it's going to require statutory or regulatory amendments. There's a reminder out below that regarding the workplace violence prevention requirement that includes both a training video as well as reading and signing a policy where the acknowledgement form will be retained. Again, the reminders were sent to everyone on August 15th. If you need that information, please let us know, and also be happy to email it to you. I mentioned board strategic planning is confirmed for January 23rd, 24th. So we will send a save the date, as well as add that information to the website. I'd like you to please consider that when you select your next meeting dates under item 19. Also, Richard's reference to the MBCOT leadership forum being offered on September 10th and 11th, based on my assumption that the licensee members did receive that. I did forward that email from MBCOT to the public members. Let's see here. So are there any questions about those items? Okay, including the materials is the regulations update report. And I'm not sure that was sent to you. That was in the first package emailed to you, mailed to you, my apologies. Again, it's a standard report. We have the information for the final quarter of the fiscal year for the enforcement data, case and complaint data, citations issued to OTs and OTAs, as well as, pending cases at the AG's office. And final decisions, which is not a quarterly thing, but a fluid ongoing document. For example, all of the cases that you voted on, they will be identified in that at the November meeting, fall under the July 1 to August 31st data for, final decisions. Then if there are no questions, we'll keep going. There's the licensing unit data. And then there was under E, there was the future agenda items. That was a handout that had to be updated. That was should have been brought to you as a handout yesterday. And then there was nothing to report under item F. So I think in terms of the item, future agenda items in the report, these are items that need to be prioritized with the addition of following up with Kristen Neville about the dry needling documents, about the updating, so that's not a prioritization. So I'm sorry, just one second. That looks like that might only be the only future agenda item to be added to this report. And I believe also NBCOT recently did a survey regarding to all the states regarding whether there's law, whether dry needling was allowed, or use of dry needles, I should say. Also, and responders were asked to identify whether it was in statute or regulation. So we will reach out to both AOTA and NBCOT regarding that information if the board so chooses. Since that was not done from the May meeting direction. It's up to you if you want to put it on.
I'm interested in them, but I'm not sure what board would do with them, given the state stairs. Since we're not authorized. It's of interest, it's a personal interest, I'm not sure. It's of the board's interest, what do you think?
We could provide it under other, whatever F is, other information.
Yeah,
Data or information requested at a prior board meeting, we can simply report on it.
okay,
Okay, and we will include that.
that would be great.
November, so future data.
Does anyone have an objection to that? No.
No, what if we just?
Restate what the action is?
Yeah.
The action will be to contact both AOTA and NBCOT regarding the documents they have prepared based on research about the state, which states allow the use of dry needles, or what, if there's a prevention or prohibition, or if there's an allowance, is the language in law or reg, and that we will report back at the November board meeting under, for example, on this agenda, it's item 18F, data or information requested at a prior board meeting. So, yeah.
Yes.
What if we think there's something missing from the alternative? Is it now the time to talk about?
Yes.
And maybe I missed it because I thought you said it was on there or somewhere, but you brought up in the past, perhaps looking at changing the meeting requirements, geographical requirements, since now there's an option.
So that was discussed in the yesterday, yes, under item 12.
Did I miss it? I'm so sorry.
No, you guys approved it. Approved it. It's there. It's under item 12.
Don't know how I missed it. Okay.
It's there.
So much.
Yep. We're on it. Get a bill.
Thank
Get
you.
an author to introduce a bill.
Okay, thank you.
For the dates, the locations, as well as a gender issue. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, I
So-
did for the gender issue.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. If there are no other questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay. Okay.
Any other board comment on listing of future agenda items? If hearing none, let's ask, hearing none, moderator, could you ask the public on WebEx whether they have any comments on the executive officer's report?
This is the moderator, and for members of the public on WebEx, you can indicate if you would like to make a public comment on this item by clicking the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, pressing *3 on your device. All right, and seeing no requests,
So that was a.
there are no
Yes.
requests on WebEx for public comment.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, moderator. Let's return to the agenda item.
I did not miss it.
She did not. She is correct. So, yes, so.
Speaker on.
Okay, so just for the record, I didn't miss it. I'm not going crazy. We thought we had included it, but it is not in the language to be changed.
Right. So, Christine is correct. Item was missed. We will bring back proposed amendments to BNP code 2570.19. We'll bring that back to the November meeting. So we will add that to the list of future agenda items, and unless there's any dissension, then the proposed amendment to change the locations and ways the meetings are offered will be prioritized for the November meeting for possible introduction to a bill with some of these other amendments. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Sorry.
And that could be
Apologies.
that could be prioritized
Yep.
for November.
Yes.
Okay. Very well. Any more board? Anything anybody else thought of? No, okay. Let's move on to agenda item 19, selection of 2025 meeting dates. January 23 and 24 should be blocked off because we are going to meet on those days for strategic planning. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then we are looking at a date to just our first meeting date after that. And we're expecting the fee study sometime in mid-February. Do we look, does that mean we look at March? Or late February?
Can we go back to the strategic planning? Is that going to be in Sacramento?
Yes.
That's in Sacramento.
In person?
Yes. And unless somebody wants a WebEx option.
We did March, May, August, and November this year. August has been problematic, and if we're looking at a school site, because a lot of them are transitioning between summer break and first day classes. We managed to get this one, but we missed out on a couple of others. If we're meeting in other places, then it doesn't make a difference, like Sacramento or a hotel or something. It seems February would be awfully soon after January to have a meeting when we've just had, so I was thinking of maybe
March 7th.
late or
Do you know the dates of OTAC and ASHT and all that stuff? Have you already looked those up?
Have AOTA. We did not have the OTAC one yet.
should we look?
Probably don't.
I may not know it yet.
That's right. And last year and this year are the only times it's been in November, and all the prior ones were in October. So that's why the note was made about October/November TBD, because I don't know if they'll revert back to the October holding of it.
Right.
Because I know this year, I mean, it's November, you've got OTAC, you've got the board meeting, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got the Veterans Day holiday. So it's November's hard this year. So
AOTA 2025 is,
April 3rd and 5th. It's right here.
oh, down there.
ASHT, please.
Yeah. ASHT 2025.
It'll be in the fall.
October 23 to 26 at Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City?
Yep. For
ASHT.
ACH. ASHT. And so it's 3 to 5. Oh, it's my birthday.
So, maybe then with strategic planning and towards the end of January, the release of the fee study report in mid-February, and then AOTA at the beginning of April. Might I suggest mid-March, just to kind of break that up for people who are, taking time off and, to go to conference as well, to try to simply spread that out. It's up to you guys. I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah, and we're looking at Northern California for March because we talked to,
Well,
We talked to
we're going to
Dominican.
Dominican in November, though.
oh, Dominican's
Right,
November.
yes.
So we may come back here. We talked about looking at Keck in Claremont for a Southern California location since we're still, and we talked about maybe we don't have it, and so we're doing Dominican in November. Okay.
So if you can figure out a couple dates, like March 6, 7, or March 13, 14, if you identify some, what we can do is we can reach out to CAC to see if they'd be able to do that then, which would give a good
Sure.
balance between north and south. If you select May, for Sacramento, I think that's worked out good just because we've done WebEx and webcasts here, but we always like to do it there at TCA headquarters. They have that nice hearing room.
In May.
In May. And so the little square on the 11th, so that's Mother's Day, and then you've got the holiday. So, again, I'm just trying to get some
so those of us who are Beata and Christine, do you object? We can look at the 6th, the 7th, the 13th, 14th, either of those two. Does anybody have an objection to either of those two?
Let me just double check the calendar. I'm not looking at it.
7th is Galen's birthday, but he might want to travel to Claremont.
It's the International Women's Day.
Well, that's on Saturday, right?
Oh,
Or what?
no, it is better. Hold on, I'm just trying to look for that calendar.
If we give them a choice of two
Right, that's what I was thinking.
date sets, and then we're okay with that. But
May's kind of hard because if you do this date, you've got that Monday holiday that people might not, want that. But if you have this one.
after Mother's
this one,
Day,
Yeah, I mean,
the
so
one
it's
after
kind
Mother's
of,
Day.
yeah. Because you certainly don't want to do it before, right? I mean, just in case. So I don't. It's like the 15th, 16th would be the best for May.
we have one mother. The rest of us don't. Aren't mothers, but we don't know who our new executive officer is.
I have a mother, but she's not.
There you go, but you still have a mother.
I'll call her.
We were
Just
whining
make it a
about
big
not having
trip.
moms, and she's like, yeah, I'll call her.
So,
We're not whining.
were you looking at in
Well,
March?
what either of these two dates, maybe we could ask them we have a place, we think we have a place. So if you say, can we do the 6th, 7th, or the 13th or 14th is one of those two pairs of dates work for you? And then they can tell us this works better than that, or
Or not at all.
give us some
and so,
flexibility.
Yeah. And
I
it's then,
can't do the 18, but the other ones are okay.
okay,
either
6,
the-
7, 13, 14.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay,
And then what we could do is, if they aren't available, then what we could do is bring back this, either, to the November meeting, either bring back
okay.
the dates they are available or some other suggested locations that might be able to. So that way the
Okay.
board can decide.
And then May, are we
Bring
looking at
back, 15, 16.
15, 16? Would that work for you, Beata? May 15, 16?
let me check. I cannot do the 15.
Can you do 8, 9?
Right before Mother's Day.
It's before Mother's Day. Do you have anything which we travel? I mean, and the 26th is Labor Day.
Yep.
We could do first.
Either one is the thing.
Both are bad.
No, they're both good.
8, 9.
Yeah,
But
Is-
not 15, 16, just 8, 9.
yeah, or a 1, 2.
Okay.
You want to do 1 through 8, 9?
8, 9. Okay, so. I mean, that's less than 2 months from the March dates. If you go back to 1, 2 of May.
Well, you thought it would go to June,
June, I think you should.
first
probably-
week of June?
Yeah, I think you should look at June 5, 6 instead of going back. I mean, 7 weeks between board
Cannot be
meetings.
5, 6. That's the last day of school.
Okay,
The fifth.
12, 13? It's the 15th.
Father's Day.
Oh, so Mother's Day you have a problem with, but not Father's Day.
No, that's the thing too. I don't, well, I didn't know she was the 5th, 6th too. I mean, so I don't.
In June.
June 12th, yeah, June 5th, 6th, yeah.
What happened to May 1, 2, 8, 9?
He's saying it's too short between
That's what he
board
said.
meetings.
7 weeks after a board meeting is a really compressed time frame for staff to prepare the materials.
What about 22, 23?
Before the 3-day weekend?
The 26th is Labor Day.
29, 30
A lot of people,
of May.
it's a holiday week, so it's a short week already. It's a 4-day week because it's a holiday, the 26th. That's why we were avoiding that. That's why we're avoiding we were avoiding 22, 23, 29, 30 because of Labor Day,
So what about
Memorial Day, I mean.
May 8, 9, or June 12, 13? How about that?
June 12, 13.
June 12, 13,
Only.
or May 8, 9, and forget
Okay.
May 1, 2.
Okay. And the only thing I just, like,
Fine.
again, it's subject to, I have to find out if the hearing room is available. And if not, we can bring that back as well to, see if you want to flip flop location.
And that's Sacramento?
Correct.
Sacramento is planned,
Bring back if we can't get the dates.
right? And then we're looking into August, September, right?
Yes. Late August.
Yeah, late
or
August.
September, 28, 29 of August, or 11, 12 of September.
11, 12 is definitely good for me.
Let's do 11, 12,
As
because
September.
we had a lot of trouble getting space
Yeah.
at this time of late
Yeah,
August.
It's just. a
It's,
lot
the
going
people
on.
are taking their kids and
Yeah.
the facilities. We can just stick with 2 dates for that one for now, and that would be, you think that would be, LA or San Diego probably?
Okay.
And then
So I had 9, 11, 12, or what was the other one?
We
Or
didn't-
just,
we
okay.
didn't, we
just
didn't
only.
have
Okay.
another one.
Right.
4, 5, it gets into,
19 would work too, right?
you want 18? Yeah, it would work.
Okay.
It would work.
And since the sunset report is going to need to be prepared next year, I would suggest that you not even look to November and look at early December. There's going to have to be committee meetings preceding that for reviewing portions of the sunset report, but ultimately the board's going to have to approve it. So, I would,
4, 5, December 4, 5,
5.
Can't do that.
Okay.
I cannot.
Can-
11, 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
11.
December 11, 12.
Yeah, for sunset. And that would be LA or San Diego, same, San Diego or LA,
Right.
or.
Or Bay
Sacramento.
Area, because you've got November of,
Oh, you're right.
so,
We need to do Bay Area. One of these needs to be Bay Area.
so. We'll
So
see.
we don't have
But
any-
Well, I think what we'll do, we'll look into these dates and locations, and then if any of them don't work, we will bring that back, and then you may want to readjust the, locations and or dates.
Okay.
Based on
So nothing
availability.
in November.
No,
Nothing in October or November.
Okay.
And that leaves us clear for OTAC conference, right? If people want to go to OTAC conference and, and Thanksgiving and,
Can I just suggest, or not suggest, request that September be the Bay Area and December be in Southern, if we're gonna do that, it's possible.
September. Okay.
sure.
Okay.
San Marcos probably, everything's gonna, but we'll see.
For when?
Wherever.
Wherever. What do you want to fly in December, but not?
No, I don't want to fly in December just because I have a commitment the week before where I have to travel.
Okay. So, yeah,
There's some logistics of that.
so you do this, okay.
If we have this material, you may be able to join via WebEx if you should choose to.
Okay, So we've got the meeting dates. We're going to look we're going to ask Keck if they can do March 6, 7, or 13 and 14. We're going to do Sacramento, either look for a place, Sacramento 8, May 8, 9, or June 12, 13. We're going to look for September space in the Bay Area, either the 11, 12 of September or the 18, 19th of September. And then in December, we're going to look at the 11th, 12th of December, somewhere down here, San Diego, LA, Inland Empire, something like that. Do we have any further? Is that okay with everybody here? Any public comment from the point of view, moderator, if you could take public comment on the board meeting dates?
This is the moderator, and for members of the public who are on WebEx, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, press *3 on your device. All right, it looks like we have a request from Ada Boone-Horo, and Ada, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you. Just a clarifying question. Is WebEx a now for all meetings available, or is that periodic based on location?
So, yes, so, that is going to be periodic based on location. For example, we're not in Sacramento. This is the board's first time holding, an in-person WebEx combo meeting in a location other than Sacramento. We borrowed equipment for that, and, I don't know, tell us, do you think it worked out well? Your feedback would be helpful, but, yeah, so at this point, we cannot guarantee the availability of WebEx for all of the board meetings.
Thank you for that information. I have appreciated the opportunities to participate when you are in, and I know others have, but I appreciate and understand. Thank you very much.
Ada, thank you very much for your all the time and effort and input you've given to us on many board meetings. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests on WebEx.
All right, that concludes the items on our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
11:24.
11:24.